Hello learners, welcome to LitNerve. Here we prepare for UGC NET examination or your SET exam. I have covered letter A from the literary term series, and in this video we will learn all the terms from letter B. You can check out the playlist in the description or in the pinned comment below. Without wasting any further time, let's begin with our first term for today, which is ballad. So, ballad is a song transmitted orally which basically tells a story. So, ballad is a very old form of poetry. It was meant to be sung and it is a narrative species of folk songs. So, we have popular ballad, folk ballad, and traditional ballad. These are the types of ballad. And there is a ballad stanza. Ballad stanza is a quatrain. Quatrain means which has four lines. Quatrain in alternate four or three stress lines. Usually, the second and fourth lines rhyme in this quatrain. There is a type of ballad which is broadside ballad. It was a ballad that was printed on one side of a single sheet, which was called broadside, and it dealt with a current event or a person or an issue and was sung to a well known tune, a famous tune in streets or at country fairs. Then we have literary ballad. Literary ballad is a narrative poem which is uh, written in the form of imitation. It is an imitation of the form and language and spirit of traditional ballad which was meant to be sung. Right. Next is St. Coleridge. His Rime of the Ancient Mariner is a very famous ballad. Walter Scott, Proud Macy, and Keats, La Belle Dame sans Merci. Next term we have is bard. Bard is basically a poet. A poet, a singer. Bard was a Gaelic term, Gaelic, Gaelic term, and it appeared in English in mid 15th century. Okay, and it was named for a professional poet who operated in Celtic societies. He was an employee of a noble patron, a rich patron at Celtic times, and he provided poetic commemoration for their achievements. Some of the writers who are known as bards, Shakespeare was known as the Bard of Avon, right? Because he lived in Avon. These are the names of places where they were born or they were famous. Wordsworth was called the Bard of Riddlemount, and Robert Burns was called the Bard of Ayrshire. That is it for Bard. Next term we have is bathos and anticlimax. Bathos and anticlimax are sometimes used um, simultaneously. This term bathos, we will first talk about bathos. Bathos basically means, it is a Greek word that means depth. It means depth. So bathos means depth. It was used by critics since Alexander Pope published an essay called On Bathos of the Art of Sinking in Poetry. It was published in 1727. It was a parody of the Greek poet Longinus. His famous essay on the sublime. He talked about loftiness in this essay. He talked about loftiness. So it was a parody of this essay that Alexander Pope wrote on bathos. Bathos is an unintentional, it is not intended, it is a dissent in literature a writer when a writer overshoots the mark and drops into the trivial or ridiculous. When he tries to be very sublime or high in poetry, he overshoots that mark. He misses that mark and then it turns out to be trivial or ridiculous. There is an example of bathos where we can understand it properly. So there is ye gods, annihilate but space and time and make two lovers happy. Here he is speaking very sublime, very lofty, very high language. He is saying to God that please destroy this space and time so that two lovers can be together and can be happy forever. So he is talking about very trivial matter and he is making such a big deal out of this situation that it becomes trivial and seems to the reader as ridiculous. There is an important book called The Stuffed Owl. It is by Charles Lee and D.B. Wyndham Lewis. You have to remember the date and the writers, mainly the writers. Then, after bathos, we have anticlimax. Sometimes it is considered equivalent of bathos. It is non-derogatory. Bathos was derogatory. So this is the difference between bathos and anticlimax. This is non-derogatory and it denotes a writer's deliberate drop. Please focus on this word deliberate. Bathos was unintentional and anticlimax is intentional. It is a drop from the serious and elevated to the comic or satiric, to the trivial. Why? To achieve a comic or satiric effect. So it is intentional. Okay, so we have Thomas Gray's Ode on the Death of a Favorite Cat, 1748. Here he says, what female heart can gold despise? What cat's averse to fish? So here he is comparing female heart to cat's hunger for fish. He says that females cannot resist gold as cat cannot resist fish. So he is creating a satire on females' desire for gold. And Byron in Don Juan said, a better cavalier's never mounted horse or being mounted ever got down again. So he is making fun of the cavalier's skills or his competence. Next is beat writers. Beat writers were a loose knit group. They were not definite, means उन्हें कोई ऐसा नाम नहीं दिया गया था specifically कि these are called the beat writers. ये name बाद में दिया गया in writers को. They were the poets and novelists in the second half of 1950s and early 1960s. They performed in coffee houses and public places. जो poets थे इसके अंदर वो थे एलन जिन्सबर्ग, ग्रेगरी कॉर्सो, लॉरेंस फर्लिंगेटी. नॉवेलिस्ट हमारे पास थे विलियम बरोज एंड जैक कैरुआक. सो ये जो बीट वर्ड है ये आया है बीटन डाउन से, मीन्स हु वर ऑप्रेस्ड, हु वर द माइनॉरिटीज. एंड थोड़ा बहुत इसमें जो ड्रग्स का कल्चर उस टाइम चला था तो वो भी इसमें आता है. इट इज कंसिडर्ड अंडर सब कल्चर. Next, there is biography and autobiography. These might seem very simple terms, but डिटेल में आपके क्वेश्चन आ जाए या राइटर का वर्क आ जाए तो फिर अगर आप लोग कंफ्यूज हो जाए उसके लिए ये मैं डिस्कस कर रही हूँ. आपकी जो बायोग्राफी है उसको जॉन ड्राइडन ने डिफाइन किया था एज द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर मैन्स लाइफ. Ancient Greeks and Romans produced short and formal lives of individuals. We have Plutarch's Parallel Lives, which was later translated by Sir Thomas North in 1579. This is important. And we have Samuel Johnson's Lives of the English Poets, 1779 to 81, and James Boswell's Life of Samuel Johnson. This is also important. Please comment down below the published date of this work. Right, and we have Confessions of Saint Augustine, 4th century. This work was the first fully developed autobiography. This is also an important work, Gertrude Stein, The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. It was an autobiography. यही से हमें नाम भी पता चलता है कि उनका pseudonym क्या था. जॉन बनियन की ग्रेस अबाउंडिंग टू द चीफ ऑफ सिनर्स भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. ये आपको क्रोनोलॉजी में अरेंज करने के लिए आ सकते हैं, क्योंकि क्रोनोलॉजी आजकल नेट बहुत ज़्यादा पूछ रहा है. जेम्स जॉयस का पोर्ट्रेट ऑफ द आर्टिस्ट एज ए यंग मैन इज ए सेमी ऑटोबायोग्राफी. एंड राल्फ एलिसन का इनविजिबल मैन 1965, मैक्सीन हॉकिंगस्टन का द वुमेन वॉरियर 1978 वर्क है. ये वर्क्स आपको याद एज इट इज रखने पड़ेंगे, बट इन chronological order. नेक्स्ट इज ब्लैक आर्ट्स मूवमेंट. ये भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. इट वॉज एन अफ्रीकन अमेरिकन मूवमेंट जिसमें कि जो राइटर्स थे उनका वर्क था, इट वॉज शेप्ड बाय द सोशल पॉलिटिकल टर्बुलेंस ऑफ द 1960s. 1960s में ऐसा क्या हो रहा था? 1960s में आपके प्रोटेस्ट्स हो रहे थे, जो वियतनाम वॉर हो रही थी उस टाइम, उसके अगेंस्ट, एंड राइट्स ऑफ अफ्रीकन अमेरिकन के लिए डिमांड हो रहा था. और राइट्स एंड बर्निंग्स ऑफ लॉस एंजलिस, डिट्रॉइट, न्यूयॉर्क और अदर भी मेजर सिटीज थी, उनमें भी राइट्स एंड बर्निंग्स हो रही थी. It was associated with the Black Power movement in politics. इस मूवमेंट में स्टोकली कार्माइकल एंड मैल्कम एक्स दो मेजर एडवोकेट्स थे फॉर ब्लैक सेपरेटिज्म, ब्लैक प्राइड एंड ब्लैक सॉलिडारिटी. लैरी नील, इनका जो वर्क है द ब्लैक आर्ट्स मूवमेंट 1968, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है जब ये मूवमेंट अपने पीक पर थी. ब्लैक एस्थेटिक. अब ब्लैक एस्थेटिक की बात करें तो ब्लैक एस्थेटिक क्या होता है? इट कॉल्ड फॉर द एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ऑफ द एनर्जी, द freshness of their black vernacular language, and the rhythms, moods, basically influenced by jazz and the blues, and it dealt with the lives of lower class blacks, and it was addressed to a black audience. That is black aesthetic, means it was meant for black people. Now we have major writers. इनका pseudonym क्या था? लेरॉय जेम्स. लेरॉय जेम्स इनका pseudonym था. इन्होंने वर्क लिखा था इसमें एक डचमैन इनका वर्क है, प्ले है बेसिकली. तो प्ले है, ये इन्होंने लिखा था इस मूवमेंट के अंदर. ये हमारे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं क्योंकि ही फाउंडेड द ब्लैक आर्ट्स रेपर्टरी थिएटर or school in Harlem. Where it was founded? It was founded in Harlem. ये भी आ सकता है आपको कि ये कौन सी जगह पे है ये थिएटर. ये it was founded in 1965. So इमामू अमीरी बराका, It is going to be Amiri. I'll change it. इमामो अमीरी बराका एंड एलन जिन्सबर्ग, ये दो फेमस वो थे, एडवोकेट्स थे इस मूवमेंट के, एंड ही वाज एलन जिन्सबर्ग वाज एन एसोसिएट ऑफ अमीरी. ऑलराइट. एंड ये भी राइटर्स हैं हमारे पास: एथरिज नाइट, सोनिया सैंचेज, हाकी मधुबुट्टी, निकी जियोवानी. ये हमारे आ जाते हैं पोइट्स के अंडर, और ये हमारे हैं प्रोज फिक्शन. These wrote prose fiction. Paul Carter Harrison and Ed Bullins, they were playwrights. That is it for Black Arts movement. Next we have is blank verse, very important term. Blank verse is written in iambic pentameter and it is unrhymed. There are two main things to remember about this blank verse. The difference between blank verse and free verse is that blank verse is unrhymed, but it has meter, and free verse is unrhymed and doesn't even have meter. So remember this. All right. It was first introduced into England by the Earl of Surrey. Very important, remember his name, the Earl of Surrey. He introduced blank verse into English literature. And through which book did he introduce it? It was the translation of Virgil's Aeneid. He translated Virgil's Aeneid around 1540, and he translated book 2 and book 4. He translated book 2 and book 4 of Virgil's Aeneid, and he used blank verse in this translation in these books. So blank verse होता है हमारा iambic pentameter में लिखी हुई lines, जिसमें कि iambic pentameter में 5 stresses होते हैं. It is unrhymed and it is closest to the natural rhythms of English speech. Alright, closest to the English speech. Yet it is very flexible and adaptive to different levels of the discourse. After it was introduced into England by Earl of Surrey, many writers started using this form of verse in their works, such as Paradise Lost by Milton, Seasons by James Thomson. I'll write it. James Thomson, William Wordsworth's Prelude, Ideals of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson, The Ring and the Book by Robert Browning, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, Frost and Midnight by Coleridge, Wordsworth's Tinton Abbey, Tears, Idle Tears by Tennyson, and Sunday Morning. All of these works are written in blank verse. Please remember all these works. These are written in blank verse. Now we have Bloomsbury Group. Bloomsbury Group was an informal association of writers, artists, and intellectuals who lived in Bloomsbury and met in Bloomsbury in central London around 1905 to discuss about their common interests, viewpoints, and the complicated erotic discussions. So Virginia Woolf and E.M. Forster are novelists. Duncan Grant and Vanessa Bell, all of these are members of Bloomsbury Group. These were painters. Vanessa Bell was the sister of Virginia Woolf, and Clive Bell was husband of Vanessa Bell. Roger Fry and Clive Bell were art critics. Lytton Strachey and John Maynard Keynes were also members of this uh, group, and Lytton was a biographer. He was a biographer, and there was a work called Bloomsbury Recalled, which was written by Clive Bell, Clive Bell and Vanessa Stephen, husband and wife. All right. Next, we have book format. Book format is the way a book is arranged, a book is formed. So, the left side of the page, this one is called verso, and this one is called recto. Right and left. This one is right and left. Folio. What is a folio? You must have heard Shakespeare's first folio. When was it published? It was published in 1623. Right? First folio was published in 1623. A folio is a sheet which is folded once, which means it has two leaves and four pages. Now another term is colophon. Colophon was in older books it was there. It was a note at the end of the book which stated such facts as title, the author, printer, and date of issue, which is now converted to the first page of the book. Next is book history studies. So this is an investigation of factors which are involved in production, distribution, and reception of recorded or written texts. It emerged in 1980s. So Robert Darnton was a historian who in 1982 published a book, and in that book he talked about communication circuit. This is important, and his name is important. So he gave communication circuit. He said that author writes the book, then it is published, printed, and distributed, then reader, and then he gets the feedback from reader, and this is the complete circuit. Next is Elizabeth Eisenstein, the printing press as an agent of change. D.F. Mackenzie, Bibliography and the Sociology of Texts, 1986. In this book, he talks about expressive function of the publisher, the printer, and the book designers. They design and they make the first expression and the final expression on the reader, and how he perceives the reader perceives the book. Okay, so the designers and the printer have an expressive function in this communication circuit. Now these are some books that you should know, and remember the dates of. You can take the screenshot and learn them in your free time, because UGC NET is asking from anywhere. They can find new or unique information about English literature or terms. Next term is Bowdlerize. Bowdlerize is to delete passages in an edition of a literary work considered by the editor to be indecent or indelicate. You must have read on the back of a book that it is a Bowdlerized version of the book. It means the indecent parts, or which are considered indecent by the society, are removed from the book. The term Bowdlerize comes from Reverend Thomas Bowdler, who wrote a work called Family Shakespeare in 1818. He tidied up his Family Shakespeare by omitting, he said, that whatever is unfit to be read by a gentleman in a company of ladies, that piece of passage or that piece of work should be removed. Next, we have burlesque. Burlesque is an incongruous imitation, imitates the manner, form, and style, or else the subject matter of a serious literary work or genre, but makes imitation amusing by a ridiculous disparity between manner and matter. So basically, burlesque is an imitation of the manner or the subject. either the manner or the subject of a serious literary work and makes it amusing by creating a ridiculous disparity between the manner and the matter. There are two types of burlesque. There is high burlesque and low burlesque. हाई बर्लेस्क में क्या होता है, जो फॉर्म और स्टाइल होता है आपका वो हाई होता है, बट जो सब्जेक्ट होता है वो आपका लो होता है. बट वही लो बर्लेस्क में आपका फॉर्म एंड स्टाइल लो हो सकता है, बट आपका जो सब्जेक्ट होगा वो हाई होगा. अब जो आपके हाई बर्लेस्क और लो बर्लेस्क है उनके भी फर्दर टाइप्स हैं. तो हाई बर्लेस्क में पैरोडी एंड मॉक एपिक आपके टाइप्स हैं, और लो बर्लेस्क में है ह्यूडिब्रिस्टिक पोएम एंड ट्रेविस्टी. पैरोडी में क्या होता है, देखो, पैरोडी इज अ लिटरेरी फॉर्म दैट डेलिबरेटली इमिटेट्स द स्टाइल, tone, conventions, or subject matter of another work by exaggerating distinctive features or placing them in an incongruous context. It highlights the original's assumptions, weaknesses, and cultural significance. अगर एग्जाम्पल्स के थ्रू मैं आपको बताऊं तो जॉन फिलिप्स की जो द स्प्लेंडिड शिलिंग है 1705 में पब्लिश हुई है, वो एक पैरोडी है पैराडाइज लॉस्ट की. इट वॉज अ पैरोडी ऑफ पैराडाइज लॉस्ट. हेनरी फील्डिंग की जोसेफ एंड्रयूज है, वो आपकी पैरोडी है सैमुअल रिचर्डसन की पमेला की. सैमुअल रिचर्डसन की पमेला की ये पैरोडी है. जेन ऑस्टन की नॉर्थैंजर एबी है, ये गॉथिक नॉवेल्स की पैरोडी है. एंड मैक्स बियरबॉम एक ब्रिटिश राइटर है, उनकी क्रिसमस गार्लैंड 1912 भी एक पैरोडी है, जो कि पैरोडी है स्टेला गिब्बन्स की कोल्ड कंफर्ट फार्म की. इट वाज अ पैरोडी ऑफ कोल्ड कंफर्ट फार्म. बर्टोल्ट प्रेचेट एंड कर्ट वील की जो आपकी थ्री पेनी ओपेरा है, वो आपकी बेगर्स ओपेरा की पैरोडी है. नेक्स्ट टाइप जो हमारे पास थी हाई बर्लेस्क की, वो थी मॉक एपिक या मॉक हीरोइक. मॉक एपिक क्या होती है, वो इमिटेट करती है जो इलेबोरेट फॉर्म होती है उसको भी, और जो सेरेमोनियल स्टाइल होता है एपिक जॉनरा का उसको भी, और उसको एक ट्रिवियल सब्जेक्ट मैटर पे अप्लाई करती है. जैसे कि एग्जांपल है द रेप ऑफ द लॉक 1714 का एलेक्जेंडर पोप, एंड ऑन द डेथ ऑफ अ फेवरेट कैट, ये थॉमस ग्रे की वो है ओड. ये भी आपकी मॉक एपिक और मॉक हीरोइक है. ऑलराइट, नेक्स्ट जो हमारी है वो है ह्यूडिबरिस्टिक पोएम, जो आती है लो बर्लेस्क में. ह्यूडिब्रिस्टिक पोएम ये सैमुअल बटलर की ह्यूडिब्रास से लिया गया है, जो कि एक टाइप ऑफ सटायर था नाइटली हीरो पे. तो इस टाइप ऑफ पोएम में एक नाइटली हीरो होता है जो एक्सपीरियंस करता है मंडेन या कॉमन प्लेस या ह्यूमिलिएटिंग मिस एडवेंचर्स. ये एक कॉमिक वर्स होता है और सटायर और ह्यूमर क्रिएट करने के लिए इसको लिखा जाता है. ये लिखा जाता है आयम्बिक टेट्रामीटर में. आपके लिए ये याद रखना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आयम्बिक टेट्रामीटर में लिखा जाता है, और इरेगुलर और अनएक्सपेक्टेड राइम्स को ये यूज करता है ताकि ये एग्जैजरेटेड और एक क्रूड मीन्स रॉ टाइप की एक आपका ह्यूमर और सटायर बना सके. नेक्स्ट जो हमारे पास है वो है ट्रेवेस्टी. ट्रेवेस्टी भी लो बर्लेस्क का टाइप है. इट ट्रीट्स अ वर्क्स लॉफ्टी सब्जेक्ट in a grotesquely undignified manner and style. It makes something disrespectful, derogatory. A travesty is something that makes a serious subject seem ridiculous or absurd by presenting it in a distorted, exaggerated or disrespectful way. जैसे कि अर्नेस्ट हेमिंगवे की अक्रॉस द रिवर एंड इनटू द ट्रीज एक वो है आपकी ट्रेवेस्टी है ऑफ द वर्क अक्रॉस द स्ट्रीट एंड इनटू द बार. इसके बाद आ जाता है हमारा लैम्पून. Lampoon is a short satirical work or a passage in a longer work that describes appearance and character of a person by employing caricature. Alright, जॉन ड्रैडन की जो एब्सलोम एंड एचिटोफेल है 1681 में, जो कि एक और लिटरेरी टर्म का एग्जाम्पल है, वो आप प्लीज मुझे कमेंट्स में बताएं कि कौन से लिटरेरी टर्म का एग्जाम्पल है ये, और डिटेल में बताएंगे कि उसकी सब टर्म भी बताएं कि कौन से टर्म का एग्जाम्पल है. तो जॉन ड्राइडन की एब्सलोम एंड एचिटोफेल में एक लैम्पून आती है 25 लाइन की, जो जिमरी को जो उसका कंटेम्प्रेरी था, द ड्यूक ऑफ बकिंगहैम, उसके बारे में ये सटायर है, लैम्पून है, मजाक उड़ाती है उसका। एंड दैट इज इट आई थिंक फॉर बी लेटर। बी लेटर आपका यहाँ खत्म हो जाता है। तो नेक्स्ट वीडियो भी मैं बहुत जल्दी ही आपकी डाल दूंगी, मे बी कल डाल दूं या डे आफ्टर टुमारो मॉर्निंग में आपकी वीडियो डल जाएगी। सो प्लीज़ कमेंट डाउन बिलो आपको कंटेंट अच्छा लगा, और आपको अगर कुछ नया सीखने को मिला, नई इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली जो कि आपको लगता है कि रेलेवेंट है। मैं और भी वीडियोस बनाती जाऊंगी। अब जैसे जैसे पेस बढ़ता जाएगा वैसे वैसे वीडियोस बनाती जाऊंगी। सो डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब to the channel, and goodbye, take care, and keep working hard for your goals. Thank you.